Today we are talking about compatibility in the hands from palmistry. Do the hands reveal if you're meant to be together? Thanks for joining me today. So if you reckon you might have found the one before you go making any big plans, you might want to have a good look at comparing your hands. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you 4 little signs, or I'll probably show you a few more, but at least 4 signs on how you can probably get a peek into someone's actual personality, who they really are, and what your future together might look like. So if you're new here, welcome to my channel. Hi Erica, welcome back Erica. So anyone new here, I often do these live streams, so if you have questions, we do Q&A, and you're welcome to interrupt me anytime and ask your questions. If you know anything about palmistry already, that's fine, but you might know that your hands tell a bit of a story, and obviously not with words, but kind of the language of the hands. We have the personality that shows up there, you know, that kind of a symbolic language. So your feelings and how you connect with people. So it's only for a bit of fun, you know, for the comparison, a cool way to start a new chat with your new partner. So looking at yourselves from a different angle, maybe appreciating the person who they are. So it's not about spotting flaws or predicting relationship is doomed or anything like that. It's about understanding the connection and the differences. So the 4 things we're looking at mainly is the hand shape, the finger length, the thumb shape, and the heart line. So I will bring a picture that I'm using as a comparison. So I'll get rid of this one somehow and bring the new one up. It's not, here we go. It's kind of cartoony. I'll see if I can get my chat box to show up here on the screen. I've changed the size of my screen to make it more, what do you call it? HD? I don't know. What do you call it when something's HD or not HD? Anyway, so I'll start with this picture, and this is a couple's hand. I have kind of rubbed out the lines because I want to discuss different types of lines, so I want to be able to draw on it properly. So I'll get my little interaction pen ready. So first thing we notice about compatibility, we look at the shape of the hand. So if you have a narrow hand, if they have a wide hand, then that's obvious mismatched in the personality. But if you understand each other, the one with the narrow hand is going to be more quiet. The one with the wider hand is going to be more more out there, more sort of extroverted is the word I was looking for. So there's those 2 comparisons. And the finger length is if someone has long fingers, then that person is going to be a bit more slower, more detail oriented. Someone with shorter fingers is going to be impatient. So this couple we're looking at here, if you look at the overall hand shape and finger length, they both have short fingers compared to the hand. So it kind of looks like both of them are fire hands. So while they are evenly matched, and the way I know they're fire hands in a way we're looking at, I'll better explain. The hand is quite thick, but it's rectangle shape. This hand is also quite thick and rectangle shape. So that gives the fire hand, which means passionate, outgoing, energetic. They're full of beans. They're somebody who's always got something to say. They want something to do. They get bored easily. So these two people are both go-getters. They're out there doing things, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. So what that can mean, if they are the same, it can mean that the person kind of they'll either get along or they'll clash. Because if they're both passionate about different things and they have an argument, the argument could be like, okay, two fire people going at each other. So that is one side of it. Obviously, we look into astrology, but that's not what we're talking about today. So this could be, for instance, a Pisces with a Leo, which is a water with fire. So that's completely opposite. So in that sense, if one of these is a Pisces, then that person may sort of contribute to this fire energy, as in dousing the fire, putting the fire out. But we won't bring astrology into it right now. We're just going to talk about these two fire elements. And so if one did have a narrow hand, the narrow hand would be the more quieter, reserved nature. And they're most likely to sort of go along with the fire energy, and the fire type would be the one making all the decisions, and the more down to earth, the more quiet, shy type would just, yes, let's do that, let's get along with that. What's the word? More subdued, or there's a word for it when you're willing to just do what other people do. I forgot what that word was. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So these fingers, we're looking at, both of them have thick fingers, relatively thick. But the differences here is one person has a really short, bendy pinky, and the other has quite a straight, long pinky. So there's a huge difference there already in their communication style. So this person is going to be more upfront. They're going to say what they think, and there's no messing around. But this person with the short, bendy pinky, they're going to be more likely to hold back on what they say. They're going to be very careful with their words. They're going to be almost judging themselves before they speak. So it looks like it's not only curved sort of inwards, but it looks like it's like a bent the other direction too. So that communication is like halted. This person struggles to communicate how they feel. So in this opposite pinky situation, it helps to have one person being able to bring up the conversation, being able to speak up and say what's being said, and hopefully in turn the non-speaker will actually start communicating more. They will start saying things that they don't normally say, because these so-called incompatible pinkies are actually helping each other out. So one is more dominant over the other, but it balances out, because maybe this person says too much and this person doesn't say enough. So when they finally speak, one sort of balances the other one out, helping them to speak. Then we have the index finger, right? The index finger, that is, more about the ego and basically the self-esteem. It might be someone who's confident, someone who's more like a leader if it's a strong finger. So in both cases, the thickness is quite thick. There's something going on here though, whereas the index finger is quite short. This one, the index finger, looks like to be a reasonable length, but it's kind of like, definitely comparing this whole hand, the index finger is short. So that means that while he might like taking charge, he's probably not going to. He's going to allow the other person to take charge. So the one with the more dominant index finger is likely to take charge of the relationship, on what happens. So while this one might struggle communicating, it may only reflect in the bedroom, for instance, or it may reflect in those inner feelings. But on a outer world, on what's actually happening, this person has a strong index, so they are going to be more likely taking the charge and being the confident one and making kind of decisions with certain things anyway. And so the one with the weaker index will be eager to please and go along with the other person. So while they are mismatched on the outside, it looks like they're mismatched, but when you balance it out in a relationship, that it balances it out. One person is willing to go along with the other's sort of decisions in that kind of thing. So next we have the thumbs. So the thumbs, we look at the length, the thickness, and the angle of the thumb. There's all sorts of things that we look at. And the first thing is we see here is that they are opposite of each other. This one is set in the middle of the palm, kind of, or fairly high. It looks like it's set pretty high on the palm. You see how much palm is on this half and how much palm is here. And this thumb is set low on the palm. There's less area here and there's more area here. So as far as the palm shape is, this person has more on the intuitive, on the thinking side. They are a thinking person, and this person has more on the physical side. They're a more physical person. Probably we are referring to the, intimacy wise. So with the thumb being set at different positions, that gives a different personality already, with one being very good, probably very good with their hands, very practical, very down to earth. and the other one is probably more on the intellectual side. Neither sort of, they're probably still good with their hands. They probably do a lot with their hands based on the fire type, but they're probably more on the intellectual side. And both of them have a bendy thumb. So a bendy thumb, when it bends backwards, they are matching in that sense, because both of them are willing to be flexible with each other. So both of them are willing to go with the flow and basically be nice to each other. If one person has a very straight and stiff thumb, then that means that only one person, the one that's flexible, is the one that's going to be giving in on what's going on. So one person, okay, let's do this, okay. So you got the one's the yes person, and the other one is the dominant one saying what's happening. So that can work as long as the dominant one is not overly domineering. So you can't have someone who's, overly pushy or bullying. So as long as they're not controlling in their behavior, the dominant stiff, straight thumb will be beneficial for the one with the flexible thumb, because then they can bring them to more practical reality, because the bendy thumb can tend to be more impractical in certain sense. But when both of them are bendy, that is definitely a fairly good match. And the length of the thumb, the short thumb is going to be the more quiet one, and the long thumb is more likely to be the one that's a leader. So they are likely to be the more dominant one in the relationship. So it's about basically understanding each other in the sense that, is that person a quiet type, or are they more the dominant type? So the shape of the thumb obviously can go to a lot more detail if it has a like a narrow waist, this area, if that area is narrow or if that area is thick. We can go into a lot more details in that, but we won't go into that right now. I will do an example of the heart lines. I wonder if we're streaming to Facebook today. I hope so. I tried to stream to X. If anyone saw a stream come up the other day testing, that wasn't real. I was trying to stream to X as well as YouTube and Facebook. But turns out that X, Twitter, they don't let you stream unless you pay them money. That's so rude. I thought that was rude. I don't know how much Twitter wants for their subscription per month, but I know it's too much and I'm not going to pay it. So, sorry, Elon, you are too rich. You're not getting my money. So, yeah, I won't be streaming to X anytime soon. That's the way it is for me. I'm happy with YouTube and Facebook. I have started a Patreon, but I haven't quite worked it out yet. So maybe if Patreon does live streaming for free, if there are people on there, I don't know if there are people on there, but if there are, I will multi-stream to there as well. Crikey, it's hot in here. Anyway, so we are talking about the heart line, sometimes that is going to be a bit harder to see if you're comparing with, especially if you're just on your first date and you're trying to get a look at their hands without particularly asking. If you don't want to ask, then it's a bit hard to see. But if you're okay to look at and compare each other's heart lines, the heart line usually is a slightly curving line going slightly towards the index finger, and therefore represents someone with quite even emotions, someone who has some romantic side to them, and that they are quite open-minded, especially if there is a fork at the end of it. So that gives like a range in their sort of emotional expression. So it's generally associated with someone who's warm and as sort of an all-round, easy to get along with in relationships as far as the emotion goes. But if someone has a short, straight line, then that gives a little bit more reserved, a little bit more, not so much colder, but more like they don't seem to be as compassionate and caring. Maybe they seem a little bit selfish because it's this Saturn energy, the middle finger. So if it doesn't go beyond the middle finger in its length, then that's giving that a lot more of that, more like a selfish kind of freedom-loving personality. So there are other aspects that we can compare as well. So mainly the short one is that they kind of hold back their feelings. Their feelings might be there, but they don't know how to express it. They're probably not the ones that says they love you, and if they do, they might say that over the phone because it feels safer. They might write it on a piece of paper. They might give you a card and they say, "Oh, I love you," on the card, or they might say it on the phone. But physically saying it to you in your face, they're probably very reserved in that sense. Whereas if you have this very curvy, passionate type of heart line, you're more likely to be expressing those feelings a lot more. You'll be able to process that information and then be able to communicate it more. Sometimes this line just goes to the index finger without being all curvy. So that too is quite a lot of expression in their feelings, and they probably like to be very maybe picky. They may be very into anything to do with the feelings. They might really want to know about the feelings. And if that's together with somebody with a short one, the short heart line might find it overwhelming to be trying to be compatible with the one who's out there showing their feelings and expressing everything. But on the other side, it can be a good thing, because maybe this person does need to communicate their feelings more. And maybe this person will realize, don't be so domineering and trying to make people feel or say what they feel when they don't necessarily want to say it. So it's something that communication will help if your heart lines are mismatched. So basically, it all comes down to looking at how similar are these lines, and anything that's long gives more of that expression. So the heart line is long, that gives more of the emotional expression. The shorter the heart line, the less expression. They're less likely to talk about their feelings or even try and feel their feelings. Sometimes you get this complete difference. I'll just draw a headline here and the lifeline. Sometimes you get this heart line that doesn't curl anywhere and it just comes and crashes into the headline. So in that case, it's possible that this person has learnt to be by themselves and they do prefer not to show their feelings at all. That they're mentally so reserved that they're not going to express those feelings easily. Doesn't mean they won't, but it's going to be more difficult to express those kind of feelings easily. And then there's the extreme where the heart line goes all the way across, and that person is probably a workaholic. So if they find time to sit down to a romantic dinner, well, that's perfect, but it's most likely to be a bit of a workaholic. But anyway, any questions? Who have we got here? Let me know where you are viewing from. I'm happy to answer your questions if you have any questions. No, my spies have left. I was watching my numbers go up. The views go up. People come in and have a quick look and then they go. Then they leave again. But I've had a few new subscribers. Thank you very much. Carla James, Raylene Wood, Varun Yashish, and the end is nigh. Much thank you. Last week, the end is nigh gave me a super chat, $50 Australian. I appreciate that. Massive help towards me keeping this platform going, because my subscription ran out this week. I was almost not going to do the live stream using the Streamlabs. I was going to do it only on YouTube, which means I can't do my little drawing. So I like having my drawing app, and I do like using this Streamlabs because it's fun, makes it more fun when you can draw. It's easier to explain. But the $50 from the end is nigh was absolutely helpful. I did have to scab the rest of the money from other people. I had to rely on donations to get this going because the channel itself doesn't pay enough. Sadly, I'm starting to get more revenue from Facebook than from YouTube, but I'm hanging in there, and hopefully we'll start getting the viewers in. So if no one has any questions today, I will leave it at that. We have a it says super chat's up. No, that's from last week. I'm pretty sure that's from last week. And that's it. So anyone have any questions? before I sign out, next week we are doing again the palm readings. If you send me your palm picture with the WhatsApp, I will compare. I will look at your hand and use my feature here to try and mimic what I see on your hands. I will draw the line that I see on the picture and try to explain all the meanings. So if you're interested in that, we are doing that again next week. That was quite a success last time that we did it. And hopefully people will join in again and do that. I'm just being silly here, wasting time. So join me next week for a free palm reading. If you want to send your picture to me on the WhatsApp once I go live, join me on the live stream and I will put up my phone number. Is that a phone number? No, WhatsApp number. I'll put WhatsApp number up and then we'll take it from there. We'll take the look at the pictures. But yes, I shall leave it at that for today, and hopefully next week we'll get a few more people to join us for some Q&A and we'll get some answers. People can finally learn about their hands and what they might mean. So look forward to that. Thanks so much for being here. Adios.